Third night in a row. Same window. Same time. 3 a.m. Give or take a few minutes. I had started checking my phone the moment I woke up, just to confirm what I already knew. The bedroom window on the second floor of the house across the street was glowing a pale, steady yellow. Not flickering like a candle. Not moving like a flashlight. Just on. Solid and still, like someone had walked into that room, hit the switch, and was standing there in the dark doing something I couldn't see. The problem was simple and impossible at the same time. Nobody lived there. My name is Daniel. I'm 34 years old, and I've lived on the same quiet street in suburban Kentucky for 6 years. I know my neighbors. I know their cars, their routines, their dogs. I know who goes to work early and who stays up late. I know which houses have Ring doorbells and which ones still hide spare keys under ceramic frogs by the front door. It's that kind of street, the kind where everyone knows just enough about everyone else to feel safe. I want you to understand what kind of neighborhood this is before I tell you the rest, because I think that matters. This isn't some remote rural road with one house per mile and nobody around for miles. This is a proper suburban street, sidewalks, mailboxes, two-car garages, kids riding bikes on weekday afternoons. The kind of street where if something unusual happens, someone notices, someone talks, someone posts about it in the neighborhood Facebook group within the hour. We have a Facebook group. We have a group chat. We have a block captain named Gerald who takes his responsibilities extremely seriously and once organized a petition about a neighbor's wind chimes. What I'm telling you is that this street notices things. And this street had not noticed the light. Not once. In 8 weeks of it happening. Not a single neighbor had mentioned it to me, posted about it, or brought it up in passing. I had checked the Facebook group repeatedly. Nothing. Which meant one of two things. Either nobody else was awake at 3 a.m. looking out their window, which was entirely possible, or something about the light was positioned in a way that only my house, directly across the street, had a clear view of it. That thought bothered me more than I wanted to admit. The house across from mine belonged to the Hargrove family. Paul and Linda Hargrove, both retired, both perfectly pleasant. They'd wave from the porch, bring over zucchini from their garden every summer, and complain cheerfully about the weather the way retired people do. Their grandson visited every Thanksgiving. A quiet kid named Marcus who would shoot basketball in the driveway for hours without saying much to anyone. Their cat, an enormous orange tabby named Biscuit, used to sleep on my porch sometimes and I never minded. Paul had been the kind of neighbor that people don't fully appreciate until they're gone. He helped me replace my gutters one October without being asked. He remembered my wife's name from the first day we moved in. He kept an eye on things when we were out of town and never made a big deal of it. He was one of those quietly decent men who hold a neighborhood together without anyone realizing it. Until the morning he didn't come out to get his newspaper and Linda found him collapsed in the kitchen. 8 months ago, Paul Hargrove had a stroke. He passed away 4 days later in the hospital. Linda, understandably devastated, went to stay with her daughter in Colorado within the week. She took Biscuit. She left everything else. I remember watching her leave. A single suitcase in the trunk of her daughter's car, a carrier on the back seat with Biscuit inside, and Linda in the passenger seat staring straight ahead as they backed out of the driveway. She didn't look at the house as they pulled away. I think she couldn't. I stood on my porch and raised my hand in case she looked back. She never looked back. The house had been sitting empty ever since. I watched the real estate agent come by twice in the first month, measuring, photographing, leaving flyers in the mailbox. Then nothing. No for sale sign. No rental listing. No activity at all. The lawn grew longer than any lawn on our street had ever been allowed to grow until the city sent a notice and Linda's daughter apparently arranged for a service to come mow it once a month. Other than that, the Hargrove house just sat there. Curtains drawn, driveway empty, dark and quiet every single night. Our street felt subtly different without the Hargroves in it. Smaller somehow. A little less safe. I didn't say that to anyone because it sounded dramatic, but I felt it every time I pulled into my driveway and saw that dark house sitting there where a lit porch and a waving neighbor used to be. Grief does strange things to the spaces people leave behind. The house looked the same but felt completely hollow, like a stage set after the actors have gone home. Until 8 weeks ago. The first time I saw the light, I assumed it was the real estate agent. Early morning visit, maybe, coming to check on the property before the day got busy. I noted it and went back to sleep without much concern. Just a light in a window. Perfectly explainable. The second time, 3 nights later, I sat up a little longer and watched. The light stayed on for exactly 40 minutes, then went off. No car in the driveway. No movement at the front door. I checked the next morning. No sign that anyone had been inside. Mail still piled up at the slot. Doormat undisturbed. The small ceramic frog by the front steps. The one Linda kept a spare key under. Sitting exactly where it always sat, undisturbed and slightly mossy now from months of neglect. I lifted the frog without really thinking about it. The key was gone. I stood there for a moment, holding that hollow ceramic frog, telling myself that Linda had probably taken it when she left. That was the logical explanation. That was almost certainly what had happened. I set the frog back down and told myself to stop creating problems where there were none. By the third night, I had stopped sleeping properly altogether. I started keeping a log. Date, time the light came on, which window, how long it stayed on, whether any other lights appeared. What I found in that log over the following 3 weeks made my skin crawl in ways I still struggle to explain. The light was always the same window, second floor, right side, what I knew from years of looking at that house to be the master bedroom. It always came on between 2:50 a.m. and 3:10 a.m. It always stayed on for between 35 and 50 minutes. And it was always off before 4 a.m. Like whatever was happening in there operated on a strict and deliberate schedule. A human schedule. I knocked on the door one afternoon, just to be sure. No answer. Peered through the narrow window beside the front door. Dark hallway, stack of mail on the floor, a coat still hanging on the rack by the door that I recognized as Paul Hargrove's brown winter jacket. Everything exactly as it had been left. Untouched. I pressed my face closer to the glass and looked as far left and right as the narrow window allowed. Nothing moved. No shadow. No sign of life anywhere in that dim, dusty hallway. But I had the strangest feeling, standing there with my face against that cold glass, that something on the other side of that door was standing very still and waiting for me to leave. I stepped back fast, told myself I was being ridiculous, walked back to my house and locked the door behind me like I hadn't locked it in the middle of the afternoon in 6 years of living on this street. I called the non-emergency police line and explained the situation. An officer drove by that evening, shone a light at the front of the house, saw nothing unusual, and filed a note in their system. He told me it was probably a timer. Old houses sometimes had lamps plugged into outlet timers that the previous owners had set and forgotten. Perfectly logical. Perfectly reasonable. Except the house had been disconnected from the power grid 6 months ago. I know because I watched the utility truck come and shut it off. I remember thinking at the time how final it looked. The small orange flag they leave on the meter box, the technician in his yellow vest, the quiet finality of a house being officially switched off. A house going to sleep. So tell me, if the power has been off for 6 months, what is making that light come on at 3 a.m.?